All right. I think we actually managed to get the system going. We are currently recording live at a remote location. I'm in process of testing different locations to see where I can do live broadcasts. As I am broadcasting right now, I see that there is no one. Well, actually, someone has just tuned in. Although it's not showing me quite yet who. We've got 2 people tuning in. Hello there, people out there. I'm still testing out different locations where I can record or actually do live transmissions. And this location seems to be okay, although it may not be the best location because the police might come by. Hello, Judy and Amy. I see you. And Amy, it looks like you caught me finally. There is a time limit as to how long I can be here. So you may see the police come up if they notice me sitting out here, because this is kind of a bad location. Maybe I need to find another spot to park around here, but my Wi-Fi isn't too bad. Some of you are wanting to see me with the police coming up. Well, the thing is, like, I'm actually by a bank. I don't know if I'm getting the internet Wi-Fi feed from the bank or whatever, but it's a pretty decent strength on the signal, which is why I chose this location. I don't know if you guys can hear all the traffic around me, but the Wi-Fi seems pretty strong here, so you know, this is a potential broadcast location, but I'm actually next to a bank, so it might look kind of suspicious. And there is, where I am right now, there's a parking limit as to how long I can stay here. So, how you guys all doing today? Bad boys, bad boys. What you gonna do? If I look nervous, it's because I am, you know, and this car's pulling up right beside me. I'm actually on a busy street, pulled over to the side at one of the parking slots, next to a bank. Is this stream looking okay? I mean, does it sound okay? No delays and stuff, so everything's looking good here? Because this location's not a bad location, other than all the cars coming by and wondering what I'm doing, because they are literally just like a few feet away from me, and if they had the windows open, they're listening in on my conversation. Okay, so the channel is looking good. I do need to do some of the stories and stuff for this channel. I haven't had a chance yet, because the main thing is just trying to get accustomed to this new routine. Trying to run the 2 channels. I kind of have to split the time as to what I do. Now, I think most of the people prefer the vanning stuff because that's where most of my core audience is. So most of my energy is actually still being, devoted to living in a van. But this channel, I'll try to do some pre-recorded segments and try to broadcast live at least once a week, maybe every other week. It depends on the schedule and whether or not I can make it to the live location, because I can only record where I can get a decent Wi-Fi access, like here. And if the cops come here, then obviously this isn't a good location. Yeah, Panama had a lot of very interesting things. When I was there, I was just a kid. We were there from 1976, summer of 1976 to 1979. Then we came back to the United States and moved into Oklahoma. And then from there, we went on to Germany, and then back to America, to Florida. And then I myself went into the military and took off and went to, they stuck me at, we went to basic training. BMTS is what they call it, basic military training, Air Force basic military training at Lackland Air Force Base, near, I think it's like near San Antonio, Texas. And then from there, I went to my tech school, which was at Fort Benjamin Harrison in Indiana. And I was supposed to be assigned to a base in I think, New Mexico, where I had my friend, but they ended up shifting me to Grissom Air Force Base, Indiana. And how that worked was the story in itself. Did you guys want to hear the story about my basic training? Because I got a doozy of a story there. Alright, I'm not seeing any comments, so I'm going to go ahead and tell the story, okay? Okay, the year is 1986, the end of 1986. I graduated high school from Satellite Beach and decided to go into the military. And I was going into the U.S. Air Force. My dad was also in the U.S. Air Force. So I shipped off to Lackland Air Force Base at the end of December 1986. And actually ended up having to spend New Year's at basic training. But here's a story about basic training. It's called BMTS, which is Basic Military Training. And this one's for the United States Air Force. Alright. So before going into the Air Force, everyone kind of lets their hair grow down because you know you're going to have to shave it all off. So my hair was like pretty long, and I remember flying in on that first day, and you see all these young guys, all with like really long hair and stuff like that, and everyone's wearing civilian clothing, like different colors. So when you arrive to BMTS, which in my case was at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas, they call you Rainbow, okay? That's what you are. You come off the airplanes, and the TIs, they call it like training instructors for the Air Force. I know the Army calls them like DIs, drill instructors, but the Air Force calls them TIs, training instructors. Well, they call you Rainbows because you're like a bunch of different colors. And the first day on to the base, we rode the bus over there, and I don't know if you guys notice, like, I look like I'm smiling a lot of the time because I have this natural grin on my face, and a lot of people think I'm smiling. You know, I constantly look like I'm smiling, probably because I am a little bit, because I'm normally a pretty happy-go-lucky kind of person. But you don't want to be smiling at basic military training, especially when the TI is standing like a few inches from your face and screaming at you. You know, if you've ever watched the movie Stripes or Full Metal Jacket or any of those movies where you get to watch the TIs or the DIs in front of the troops, the trainees, they like literally stand this close to you and scream in your face, okay? And it like spits all over your face. So the TI was screaming at everybody, and he came right up to me and he says, "Airman, I want you to wipe that grin off your face." And I'm like standing there, and I'm not grinning or anything. And he says, "You think this is funny?" And I says, "Sir, Airman DeBoer reports that he's not grinning." And then he says to me, "Son, I don't like a smartass. I've got you targeted for termination." And I'm like, oh shit, first day, and I've already been picked out by the TI because he thinks I'm a smartass. Because he thinks, because it was a really short guy, he thought that I was making fun of him because he was a short little TI screaming at everybody. So they had us take our suitcases, and we had to stand in formation on this field, and they made us stand there and pick it up and drop it. Pick it up and drop it. And we stood out there at attention and did that for like 30 minutes. And then, I don't know, it must have felt like it was like 10:30 at night, 9:30, 10:30 at night or whatever. We went ahead and went into our dorms, and the first things they make you do is they make you write down this piece of paper. It's like I forget what the form is called. It's a training form, but you write down your squadron and your flight, okay? And it has this training slip that they can pull from you. It's just a little card, a little tiny card that has your flight and your squadron, in case you get lost or get in trouble or whatever, and it has your name on it. They can pull that thing and send you where you need to go, but they can also use it to pick you out, like if you get in trouble, okay? So what happened was all the new recruits and stuff, like I had like long hair and stuff like that first day, and we all looked individual, you know, like we could tell each other apart. But then what happened was the next morning, okay, They had us all march down to the intake facility, and they issued us all green uniforms. They're called fatigues. You know, the old uniform wasn't battle dress. It didn't have all the camouflage and patterns on it. It was just plain old dab green, okay? And what happens when they give you that green, okay? You're considered a pickle, okay? You're considered a pickle instead of a rainbow. But what's important on this day is they shave your head, like pretty much completely bald. They buzzed my head until I was like pretty much bald. And here's what happens though. Remember the first day, you're meeting everybody and everybody has long hair and everyone looks distinct? Well, the second day, everybody looks the same because everybody's like completely bald-headed, okay? And then what happened was, remember the TI who screamed at me and had targeted me for termination? He was a short little white guy. His name was Staff Sergeant Lilly. Okay, I remember Staff Sergeant Lilly. Well, he said, we're gonna march and we're gonna go to breakfast. And they lined you up by height order. Now, I'm 5'10", okay? Which really isn't that tall. That's like average American height. But on my flight, I was the shortest of the tall group. That put me in the left-hand corner, back corner of the squadron, okay? The squad. We had 4 of them, okay, in our flight. And I was on the first row on the far side. And how you went to eat was this. You had to march. Everything was like in formation. And you marched, yeah, you marched to the cafeteria. And then you had to stand in line and then go in as an opening came up. Now, the way it works is this. You go into the line and you get your food and you hold your tray kind of like straight out in front of you like this and you stand at attention and you go to the table, the dining table, and the dining table sits 4 people, 1 on each of the sides, and you have to stand there and wait at attention with your food. Now, I'm the last person to get in because I was on that far corner, that first row on the far left corner. That made me the last person to go in my flight. And you're not allowed to sit down and eat until all 4 chairs, some of you know, dill pickles. So what happened is, you're not allowed to sit down and eat until the whole table's been full, you know, with 4 people. Which means sometimes you have to wait for sister flight. That's the other flight that's in your squadron, the one that's upstairs or downstairs from you. And you have to wait till they have all the other people who show up and sit down with you. Well, I stood there for like 10 minutes waiting for people to show up. Finally, 3 other airmen came out and I saw that they were not for my flight. They were like, well, they were a completely different group. So they were from sister flight, okay? And I was like, crap. I think I'm not gonna have time to eat because 1, I was already the last person in, and 2, I had to wait an additional 10-15 minutes before I sat down. I think my whole flight's done. So I quickly gobbled down my food real fast, okay? And then I was like looking for my flight, and I was like, geez, I don't see anyone. They must have left. And I quickly rushed out of the cafeteria. I took my tray, put it up, and rushed out into the overhang area, and I saw my flight standing there. You know, they were all standing in formation waiting for the TI to show up. So I quickly got into my spot in the left-hand corner, and sure enough, you hear the click, the distinct click of the TI showing up, and he goes like, you know, when they walk, they go, I can't do it here, but it's like a tapping sound that you can hear. That's the warning for the trainees that the TI is about to show up. And sure enough, the TI shows up. And instead of being the short little white guy, Sergeant Lilly, Staff Sergeant Lilly, it's this big, tall, black dude. The guy is like a giant-sized black man. He's not my training instructor. And I'm like, oh, crap. I'm standing in the wrong flight. This isn't my flight. I'm with a completely different group. And he's like, all right, man, we're gonna practice marching today. And I'm like, oh, crap. This isn't my group. What am I supposed to do? What would you do? I was like, ah, and I was afraid to say anything. So then he had us all marching, you know, hut, or hut, left, left, left. And then he had us stop, you know, he oh, slide, ho. And he had us turn to the right, turn to the left, march forward, turn to the right, turn to the left. And we were doing this under the overhang. And I was like, oh my God, I'm in serious caca right now. So then suddenly the flight turned to the right and I bolted out of there. I took off and I went to, I ran away from the flight. And I ran back into the cafeteria and it was terrible. I ran back there and, you know, there was nothing that I could do but go up to the TIs who were there and tell them what had happened. It was so embarrassing because I had to go up before all these training instructors. And I don't know, you know, those of you who've been in the military or have watched the movies and stuff, they are not friendly. Those people are mean. So I went over there and I stood in front of them all. They were all eating. You know, they were sitting at their table eating. And I had to stand in front of them at attention, salute. Sirs, Airman DeBoer has report that he has lost his flight. They all stopped looking. And you could see they were getting ready to chuckle underneath, you know. They're all like covering up their mouth, chuckling. And I'm like, oh, sheesh. They said, Airman, give me your form. I think it's a form 341. I think it's what it's called. So I had to give him my form, okay? And he looked on there because on there it would tell my name, my squadron, and my flight, where I belonged. And he said, come with me, Airman. And he marched me across the cafeteria to the other side of the cafeteria. And there was my short Staff Sergeant Lilly, who was my training instructor. And he says, Sergeant Lilly, I've got one of your soldiers here. It looks like this poor airman has lost his flight. And all the TIs there looked at Sergeant Lilly and started cracking up. Now, I know it sounds silly and funny right now talking about it and stuff, but Sergeant Lilly was embarrassed, you know, in front of his peers. And I was like, oh man, this is not going over so well. So, you know, he looked at me and he was extremely mad. And he said to me again, you know, he says, Airman, you are targeted. And then we got into, you know, he took me out to the line where the rest of the flight was waiting. And during the next couple days, you know, they targeted 2 other airmen and said, you guys are targeted for termination. And the next day, one of the airmen got recycled. What they mean by recycled is this. They say that you screw up really badly, and instead of kicking you out, they send you back like a week or whatever to the next flight. You go to sister flight, and they try to train you again because they say that you're falling behind. Or they can kick you completely out of the military. So one of the airmen got kicked out. I don't remember what it was for. It was something stupid. And another one that they targeted for termination, I felt really bad for him. What happened was they have mail call where they everybody gets mass mail, you know, like you get mail from your home and stuff, and then they call you to come get your mail. Now, you're not supposed to send pictures or anything like that because the TI goes through your mail. I mean, they can look at it and stuff. So, you know, here's the thing. Every day, I think it was like 3 or 4 p.m., we had training on the PC pad. That's like this field where you go outside and you stand in formation and you do like jumping jacks and whatnot. Well, this poor guy who was the other guy that was targeted for termination, he had his love note, his letter from his girlfriend, and he stuck it into his shirt pocket. That wasn't smart. Because what happened was, when we were out on the PC field running around and doing jumping jacks and all this crazy movement and stuff, that love note fell out. Yeah, the love note fell out. And sure enough, the TI standing there spotted it on the PC field. And I remember this moment, and my heart just went out to this guy. TIs sent an airman to go pick it up, and he brought it up to the stage where they had a microphone, and he opened up the letter, and he started reading it. And it was like this love note from his girlfriend. And everybody was like, you know, they were trying to make fun of the guy, but me and the other airmen were kind of looking at each other saying, oh man, some poor guy is in serious caca here. And they were reading his personal letter, airing it out, and then they said, whose letter is this? And there was like complete silence. And then this airman says, sir, Airman, I don't remember his name. I'm going to say Airman Jones. Airman Jones reports, that is his letter, sir. He said, come up here, Airman Jones. And Airman Jones runs up, and he says, do you know what the rule is about bringing this kind of stuff out here to the PC field? And Airman Jones says, sir, we're not allowed to do that, sir. He says, you've been targeted for termination, and you're in serious trouble right now. You're in violation of regulations, I don't know, whatever. And they placed him under arrest right in front of everyone. And we were like, holy fuck. And then they had him escorted. They called 2 other airmen up and had this guy escorted to the, I guess they have kind of like a jail almost at the base. And they sent him over there. And then they had him handcuffed, okay, to a bed frame, a metal, you know, the metal bed frame. And the 2 guys had to carry the bed frame with him attached to it with the handcuff and march him around like that shit. They marched him. I don't know if they took the bed from our flight or whatever. I don't know exactly what the sequence was. But they did that to embarrass him in front of, I think there was like 300 of us out there. It was so bad. I was like, my God, this is horrendous. And I felt so bad for him. They took him and they had him physically handcuffed to the bed. And they made the 3 guys march with the bed. I don't know if it was to the military police or whatever. They removed him from the flight and he was locked up. They sent him to jail over that. And then they came back up to me again and said, Airman DeBoer, you can see that 2 of the airmen that we have targeted have been sent home or have been recycled. You're the 3rd one and you're coming up next. And I was like, because they were like riding me really hard. You know, they rode those other 2 and they had all these issues. Then they came up to me and said that and I was like, I am doomed. What am I going to do? So for the first time in my life, I actually, you know, we were allowed to call home like 1 day a week or something like that. I ended up calling home and talked to my dad. Now, my dad was a senior master sergeant in the United States Air Force. He was like 2nd to the highest enlisted rank. The highest rank that you could be was really the enlisted was Chief Master Sergeant. My dad was Senior Master Sergeant, which is one below that. And where he worked is called the command post. That's where the wing commander, you know, the base commander, works from. So my dad was like, you have the wing commander, you have the deputy wing commander, then you have the senior master sergeant in charge, and then you had the, you had the chief master sergeant in charge, then you had my dad. So my dad was like number 4 on the chain of people who kind of ran the base. You know, he ran it on the enlisted side, but I didn't know how powerful my dad was until this sequence occurred. What happened was, remember open mail call? Well, I called my dad and he says, how you doing, son? And all my life I had thought of my dad as like Homer Simpson, you know? You know how you always picture your parent and you go, man, my dad doesn't know how to do anything. Every time he tries to repair stuff, he takes it apart and it ends up in a million pieces and he can't ever fix it. Well, that's how I saw my dad. I saw him like Homer Simpson. But that day I called my dad and I said, Dad, I'm in serious trouble here. You know, they targeted 3 of us for termination and the other 2 airmen are gone. and they've been like riding me, and I don't think I'm gonna make it. I'm about to crush. He says, son, it's all psychological. They're messing with your head. Let me see what I can do. And then what he did was, my dad sent a letter to me, okay? And he didn't use a regular envelope. He took an envelope from the command post. So the envelope that he sent the mail in, which was a personal letter, had the command post letterhead on it, which came from a 3-star general, okay? The wing commander for the basic military training was only a 1-star general. And where my dad worked was a 3-star general, was the wing commander, or the base, commander. So he sent that, and he wrote his rank on there. He said, Senior Master Sergeant DeBoer to Airman DeBoer, okay? And I remember when we had mail call, they said that they were giving out the mail, the TIs were giving out the mail, and suddenly they got to my dad's letter, and they looked on it, and I swear my TIs' faces turned white. They lost all color. They looked like they were really scared. Like, oh, what did we do? So they called me, they said, Airman DeBoer, you didn't tell me your dad was in the Air Force. I said, sir, yes, sir. He works at the command post, sir, at Patrick Air Force Base. And then I noticed from that moment on, the TIs, they stopped riding me. They stopped, like, trying to... It's like they pick certain people that they don't like for whatever reason, or they want to make you an example, and they ride you really, really hard, and they try to make you break, before the whole flight. They try to teach them all a lesson. And the lesson is, to obey the orders, and if you screw up, which happens, especially when they're riding on you and putting all that pressure on you, you're screwed. And but what happened was, when my dad sent that letter, and all the letter said was, hi son, how are you? I hope things are going well. Mom and I miss you. We look forward to you graduating and then coming back home, to visit. So it wasn't like anything big or anything. But that letter that showed up with the letterhead from the command post at Patrick Air Force Base with my dad's name and rank on there, it changed the rest of my stay at Lackland Air Force Base, because suddenly they stopped trying to target me for termination. And I found myself, able to function almost normally. Even though I had like other screw-ups, like maybe I'll save those for other times, for other war stories of basic training, because I had some doozies there. But after that incident with my dad's letter, things like changed completely, and I actually made it through and graduated with no further weird incidences. I actually had my 341 pulled for doing good stuff instead of constantly in trouble. So that did save the day, and it totally changed my perspective of what my father was. It's really weird, when you grow up, you see your parents a certain way, and you don't realize how powerful they could be, and that was pretty much it. Oh, did I do this YouTube 2013? So I guess I'll have to edit that and change. Thank you for letting me know. But that's pretty much my story of losing my flight at basic training. I do have some other stories that are kind of funky and funny. Maybe I'll share them another time, but that's pretty much it. And, so far so good. No police in sight. It looks like the bank is closed, and the police didn't show up. Broadcast is still working, even though I had some where it said connection was poor. So this looks like a good potential site to do live broadcasts from. Do you guys have any questions before I sign out for this broadcast? Okay, no lags. That's good. So I think this location is a good location. So I've got at least 2 broadcast locations. I'm going to try to keep looking for some other ones. Now tomorrow, I don't know if I'll have time to post it tomorrow, but I do need to make a recording, just some other stories, or else maybe I'll just tell the stories and keep this channel live all the time. Maybe do it once a week. I know that trying to do all the different recordings and stuff is gonna be hard, because I'm almost caught up on the Living in a Van channel. Okay, so it's buffering now as soon as you said that it was clear. Well, listen, I appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope you guys are having a good day. It looks like it's getting ready to rain on this end, but I'm still thinking of heading towards the beach side. I'm actually not at the beach side right now, but I'm contemplating heading over there just to chill out a little bit, even though it's getting ready to pour rain. I just wanted to test this location out because what I did was just drive around looking at my phone and watching the little meter bar to see how many bars I had, and this location looked like it had a good one. Thank you all for tuning in. It was good to see you all. Mima, Lynn, Dill Rogers, Billy, the greater Bilby, I guess. I think you guys are the only ones that are still here. Anyhow, thank you again for tuning in. I hope you guys have a great night. Take care. God bless you.